DJ Coffee Talk. Let's get buzzed.
All right, and we are recording.
Alrighty.
Well, so virtual cheers.
Ceej,
Cheers.
Welcome to DJ Coffee Talk.
appreciate you being here.
Oh, and I do have coffee. It's a good thing I got my variety of drinks in front of me.
Very important.
Oh, so we have a very incredible artist with us today. She is originally from California, the U.S. At around 14, decided to go with her family to the Philippines and is now returning back to us and kind of stuck here in a way, right?
Oh yeah, big stuck, big quarantine.
So is that still the plan eventually when you're able to, is to go back to the Philippines?
At the moment, I guess for the next year, no, I don't think I can. The quarantine over there is a little bit different. They're very strict. So you would need, say, like a pass to be able to leave your house, and then police are kind of monitoring your movement around the city. It just depends on like what level of quarantine they're at. They're at the like major quarantine. Here we're just like, please wear masks and eat outside. So it will be very hard to get around logistically. And where I'm at with music, you know, I'm working with my cousin. He's my sound engineer. He's my manager. Everyone else we're quarantining with, they end up becoming my like production crew. So it's just, so this is kind of the place to be. And I don't know, sometimes things happen, you roll with it and you just make the best of it. So yeah, I'm here for now.
That's the right mindset. That's a good mindset to have. I feel like you gotta grow, you gotta move with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you were just about to jump in and tell us about kind of your history with writing and making music. And is that a good place to start off? Let us know, like, when did you start loving music? When you start making music and all that?
Yeah, okay. So where do I begin? I've been taking singing lessons, music lessons. I've been in the performing arts since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even before that. I'll have to ask my mom, but she's the reason why I got into all of this. The moment she heard I could sing, she's like, gotta put her into a class. So I definitely have an Asian tiger mom who became a momager, who became stage mom, and I really owe it to her because she pushed me and she pushed all of my cousins to pursue performing arts. And her, my tita's aunt, you know, they really brought us to our lessons. After we would do school, they'd bring us to our voice lessons. We do all of our homework there, and then we would train all the way up until, say, 9 p.m., and then we would go home, or we'd have dinner there, and then we would go home. So,
was that fun for you, or was that more just...
Oh, it was super fun. Okay. Yeah. It was super fun. I never understood when kids were like, oh my God, I'm so bored at home. Like, well, what do you do? What do you do at home? And it's like, I've always been busy. So that's how it started. And then I got into musical theater. I really enjoyed that. But then when I was around, I guess, 12 or 13, I decided that I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do with my music, especially my mom. Or, you know, my family, because they had expectations for me at that point. You know, as stage moms go, stage family. And even though I was very proud of, you know, the music that I did, it didn't really feel like it was mine, or so my rebellious teenage mind thought. So I just decided I'm not going to sing anymore. So I stopped singing for a good 3 years. And I didn't realize that if you stop singing in the middle of puberty, you might lose your voice. So I did. Like, I stopped singing, and I couldn't sing the way that I used to, which at that time was very musical theater, I guess, more classic. So I just listened to a lot of music. I started playing guitar, and then I discovered jazz music. And I was like, whoa, I like this. So I was like, jazz? There's like no rules, and you don't have to sing like you're happy all the time, like with musical theater. So I just did that. And I remember when I first started to sing again, like my family would listen to me and they'd be like, are you sad? Are you okay? But I was like discovering my voice and I was like, yeah, I love jazz music. So that was like, I was 14, I think, yeah, 14, 15 at that time. When I decided that was my genre and I wasn't going to sing the way that I used to sing, Mom was like, okay, there's no fighting it. Let me get you into voice lessons again. And she enrolled me in, I don't know if there's, how would you call him? He's kind of like, I would best describe him as the David Foster of the Philippines. So he's like, he has a music school. His name is Frankera. And I took voice lessons at his music school. And that's where I started building my voice up again. I started building my technique. I started singing again. And then fast forward up into college. I joined a performing arts group in my college, did a lot of concert type stuff. And then I realized I don't want to do that anymore because it felt a lot like when I was 12 and I was doing musical theater. So I once again stopped. And I just decided I've been singing all my life. Why don't I try writing music? I've always been good at writing. So I thought, I just need to put it to some music. And that's where I started. And I would still say today, I'm much more comfortable with lyric writing with the words than I am with the music. The music is definitely a challenge for me. I'm working on like my production skills. I can't say I'm the best, but my debut single was produced by me. And then James, my cousin and manager, brought on another producer, his friend, to, really jazz it up. And yeah, that's my journey.
And when it comes to the lyric writing, do you feel like it's more poetry that'll just kind of come to you randomly, or is it more of a rigorous process for you where you're just really trying to, it's like writing an essay, or do you feel like it's more like inspiration you get, you're feeling something and you're just trying to put words to something that's almost unexplainable?
So I guess the way that I approach my songwriting is like it's a two-phase process. So the first is I journal. I do that, like, oh, it comes to me. And I use my my notes in my phone, and then I just jot down like phrases. Like I could literally be in the grocery store and I'll be like, oh, wait, I think that's a good idea. And so I'll write that down. And then I'll have a bunch of ideas written in a notepad. And later on, when I'm sitting down with music, or when I'm like, okay, it's time to make this into a song, then I'll look at the thoughts I have and look for the common themes, and I'll put it together. So that's like the two-phase thing. Or I sit down with a beat, either one that I've made or one that's pre-made. A lot of people shit on them. Wait, can I cuss? You want to cuss? Okay. A lot of people shit on type beats. I know. It's controversial, but don't hate on the type beat. We all got to start somewhere, and those producers are grinding it out. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of type beats, especially in the beginning of my my songwriting thing. So I would sit down with a type beat. I would break down the beat based on like. So I don't have a music like production background. So what I do is I don't really know like how to, map it out. So I literally count. I just be like, okay, so I have from this second to this second to say like these many words. And then I will write like that. I'll just break down songs like that. Or I'll count by like, I think you call it the measures. So whatever is in Logic when I can see. And then I'll write using that. And I like doing that because type beats already provide the structure. You just have to provide, the idea and then the melody. And they already give, there's a melody inherent in the type beat. So you just have to like figure it out.
It's cool, but you got to match it in at the correct time so that way it's not awkward.
Yes, that's the most important part, is like finding the right word so that it's not awkward. And it ends up being kind of like a game, like, okay, does this fit? Yeah, I think that's going to work. No, that sounds a little weird.
No, that makes total sense. Is it mostly like, yeah, musical Tetris, 100%? Is it kind of intuitive for you as well? So it's just like, this feels right, this feels wrong. You're not actually being as much analytic about it. It's just like, that is awkward. That feels right. I don't feel anxious with that line. And then you kind
I
of
try to think of it like the way that you would speak. If you want to be eloquent, you kind of have to have like a cadence and a way of speaking, and that should translate into your music. So it should never feel like, you know, there's an extra syllable that you're really just trying to push. Like, if that word doesn't fit, look up on a thesaurus, find another word.
Do you think like in something like jazz, you're almost allowed to make things that don't fit kind of fit? Because it's one of those such.
Yeah. I mean, okay, maybe that's another thing. Like I have that background. So sometimes when there's a song that I really don't get the flow of, I'll just scat it. Like, I'll just make up words like oodie bop, whatever, and then just go with the melody. And I'm like, okay, I get what the melody is. What words are gonna fit into that?
Track, yeah.
And do you feel like your traditional background that you had aided you in being more adventurous with your jazz because you had such a traditional background in music, and then you kind of branched off and did something different? Or do you feel like you would have been fine either way? Or do you feel like having those strict rules and then kind of breaking away from those rules was a process for you to grow as an artist?
I think that vocal technique really helped me, especially because like you got to know the rules to break the rules.
Right.
And so sometimes like when I know, I guess, this is the way that you should sing it, like how traditionally it would be pleasant to the ear. So if you want to change it up, then you can do these things. I really wish that I had the musical theory like knowledge to back up what I know is in my mind, but I don't. And I'm just going to work with it. And like my cousin, because he did study that, he's just like, music theory is easy, you just gotta sit down with it. But no, I did piano lessons and I sucked. I could not understand anything. I can't even read notes now. So I'm just doing everything intuitively. But yeah, I guess having the technique, knowing the vocal technique and being able to like change it up from there, that really did help me.
That's incredible. So it's like inherent in you. It's not like knowing the theory. It's a feeling. Most of everything you do is mostly on feeling. It
is, but yeah. I mean, I want to call it incredible, but it's also really hard because when you're working with other people, just like, it sounds like, like that. Like, it's going to sound like this. I'm even at this point, like, I'm trying to familiarize myself with, I guess, the language of music, like even like the names of instruments. Like, because I'm just like, okay, I can't just keep describing the sound to them. I have to know what instrument this is to be able to speak to them. So that's really something that I'm working on. And I got that mentality of I need to learn the language, not actually from music. I got it from my job. Yeah, I got it from my day job, I guess.
What was your day job?
So I didn't take music for college. I actually took up pre-law. So I was supposed to go to law school, and then I didn't like that too much. Recitation and having to like stand in front of the class only to be embarrassed because you don't remember the law. It just like didn't appeal to me. So I now work in marketing because I didn't want to do law school. I now work in marketing, and I work for a how would you call them? I guess you would call them like an innovation agency. So what we do is we run workshops and training for companies. So if you guys have ever heard of a design sprint.
Yeah, it sounds it's kind of familiar. I feel like you're trying to help companies be more entrepreneurial. Is that kind of what you're
doing? Yes. Or to apply principles of user experience and design thinking to whatever they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So we run workshops for companies. The design sprint was like really popularized by Google. and now everybody wants to do them. So that's the company I work for. The reason why that experience taught me that I need to speak the language is because user experience is something that encompasses like design, so UX design, like user interfaces, things like that. And it's very difficult to translate business goals to say like the requirements for, yes, like software design. So it's up to the manager or whoever is overseeing the project to do that. And if you're doing that, if you're talking to developers, you need to be able to speak their language so that you can, like, not like literal computer language. Well, actually, yeah, you need to be able to speak their literal computer language, but you need to be able to translate things for them because, you know, you have expectations and they won't understand it in any other way. So, that's kind of the same mentality that I had too. Like if I'm going to be working with producers and I'm going to be working with engineers, I can't just keep like describing the shadow of what I want to them. I need to be able to speak their language, which is why I got into production.
Do you feel like what ends up being created, if you don't speak the right language, is not something you actually want to be created in the first place? Because then they start turning into something you don't want necessarily.
Yeah, and I know how frustrating it is. Because I work in marketing and it's really just like trying to interpret the value of something into this other, into this campaign or whatever. I know how frustrating it is to be given feedback or to be told something and it's like, oh, I kind of want it this way, or like, oh, that design just needs like, more pizzazz, It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Just you can tell them like exactly what you want to be.
Yeah, it's like, tell me that the copy, you want it to say this. Just tell me that, exactly what you want.
Have you noticed that it gets easier? It's getting easier now that you're in production, working with other musicians. It's become a little bit more smooth.
Yeah, it is, especially with my cousin, because he's my engineer, and it's just like I get to be like, okay, so like, we have this. I keep getting reverb and what is the other one? And delay mixed up. I'm just like, okay, so at the end of the line, what if it goes like, ha, 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 ha? And I'm just like, what? I'm like, like a reverb. He's like, no, if it's going to go, ha, 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 that's going to be delayed. I'm like, yeah, like we're like when you're in a cave. And it's like, no, that's not the way. So I'm still trying to remember the difference between the two.
It's so weird how there's languages within one language. You can have English, but there's so many different ways to speak it. Technically, I think there's different. Yeah,
and music production definitely has its own language. And I have always been intimidated by technology. I don't know. It just doesn't like work with me. I can't consider myself to be like a technical person or like a techie person. So, but I'm trying because I really want. Because I know that like in this whole thing of music, half of it is the songwriting, but the other half is the music production. And that's really what makes it. So I need to put in effort into understanding music production more.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Getting the whole picture in as opposed to just trying to work that one trait that works for you. You got to kind of get something comprehensive.
And I'm not claiming to be, wanting to be an expert in music production, although I do believe that more singers should learn the ropes, not because, they're trying to take the job of the engineers, but, to make it easier to get their work translated properly. But also because when I first got into it, I was so intimidated. Number one, I'm techie. Number two, I'm a girl. I'm just like, sometimes I feel like, that meme of the dog that's in front of the computer and he's just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's how it felt like. That's really how it felt like. And that was with GarageBand. So it's like I needed to become more comfortable with it. And I want to inspire more female artists to, get into songwriting, get into music production, because these things really are at our fingertips. Like my debut single, I wrote that, that started with 2 loops. Like, do you guys insert clips into your thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I can send you guys the video. But yeah, I wrote that song with 2 clips. And then from there, I was able to add drums to it, again, completely with loops. I didn't know how to, use MIDI, everything. And then I was able to show people. So that was like the rough draft, but it was just enough to get my idea out there and for it to be understood by other people. And that's just the bare minimum. And people are too afraid to do that. They're too afraid to get their ideas onto paper, onto like a tangible thing.
Right. And why do you think that is, at least in your own experience? Why do you think people are so afraid to, put their work?
Again, that's something that I learned from my work. It's crazy because I always thought that, if I keep doing this work thing, I'm never going to get into music.
Right.
But it ended up working out. The reason why people are afraid to be innovative or afraid to, solve the really big problems in their career and their life is because they're really afraid of the unknown. They're afraid of getting into things. And once they're there, they have no idea what to do. That's kind of like what design thinking helps with. It gives you a process for not just your creativity, but how to really address any problem. So it's really, confidence. There's a lack of confidence in your own ability to navigate through something.
Right. Do you think that's connected to insecurity at all? So people don't really understand what they're good at or what exactly they want to be doing?
Yeah, I would think that's a big thing. Like self-awareness is half of the battle, definitely. But it's also just, it's a fear of like not getting right the first time.
Yeah.
And fear of like having, doing a shitty job. But like, how can you get to the good job if, you don't even start with the bad stuff? You don't even start with a rough draft.
Yeah. Is there that kind of culture of perfectionism in the Philippines as well? Or did you notice that when you went cross-culturally and because you're a diverse cultural background, do you think that is consistent with everywhere you've been in your life? Or do you think that's more one area or another that's a little bit more perfectionistic?
I think it's a human thing. I think it's definitely a human thing, but then there is that aspect of, say, in Asian cultures, there's a thing about, I guess, shame, about like putting yourself out there and failing publicly and being criticized for it, or being like, oh, no, see, like she didn't know what she was doing, like she fucked it up. And I guess American culture is a little bit more understanding of that. Like we see failure and we're like, okay, that person's trying. But at the same time, I can't say, because we have very high standards. Like we're very much perfectionists in our own right. But I don't know, the culture's changing. Like you have people like Gary Vee who are always talking about failure, who are really advocating it so that you can learn. And I feel like just getting that message out there, but making people realize that it's relevant no matter what you're doing, whether you're in business, whether you're in music, whether just in your job.
Well, the really interesting thing that you brought up too was you were talking about how you've learned more about music production and about your own process by doing a job that you thought was not even related to music production and the music process. And that's so cool. That's how you're framing your worldview, is you have some goal that you have identified, and then you went off on a whole nother adventure and you're learning in that other realm and then going over back.
And it's weird because it's like, I know it's weird because it's like, I knew that it wasn't for nothing. And like, even when I was in college and I was taking my pre-law, I was like, oh, this will come in handy one day. And it does. I can review contracts, so I won't get fucked over. But of course, when you're in it, you're just like, this is no relevance to my life.
Yeah.
So that was my past mentality. But now I'm really focused on gaining as many, I think I call them like transferable skills as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like critical problem solving. That's something that you can apply no matter what field you're in. What else? Creativity. It's not just for the creatives. It's not just for people who are in the industry or artists. It can be for, business people too. These are like things that we would consider soft skills before, but now you're seeing that really it's the core of any successful person. So, yeah.
Too is how we define creativity as like I guess in general as people, but maybe I can just speak within the US, how creativity is identified. It's like this magical, obscure thing. And just, like, be creative, but like, what do you mean by that? And like, get to it. It's like, I don't know what you mean. And then people identify it with like artists or like any form of fine arts, but it really pops into so many other things, like in your life, even with design thinking and stuff like that. It's needed and it's so versatile, but sometimes I feel like it just gets that blanket, like,
yeah, it's because people think that geniuses are just geniuses out of nowhere.
yeah.
Like, but I think now we're like trying to break it down even more. Like we're really trying to ask ourselves, and like even geniuses are like, why am I a genius? Let me tell you why I'm a genius. That's definitely like the trend that's going around. But yeah, creativity it's not necessarily the output for me. Creativity is really the, what would you call it? It's like the, how to get from A to B. The vehicle, you know? The vehicle. It's the process. Creativity is the process. And that's what I like a lot about design thinking, is that it doesn't, you aren't required to have creativity from the get-go. Your creativity will be built up and it will be utilized as you go along. It's natural. It will come in naturally.
Right.
So really anybody can do it, and anybody can find that they have this innate creativity and that they can produce output that they didn't even know they were capable of producing.
Yeah. It's almost like if you force it, you ruin it. You're trying to focus on a picture, you're just squinting your eyes really hard, and then it just kind of is beside the point. You just got to look at the picture and see what happens. But then
Yeah.
process and be like, if I squint really hard, it's going to be HD. That's not how it works. You just got to sit there and let it happen.
I've also tried to like look at disciplines within performing arts and try to like grab what I can from there. So building off what you said, I just watched this like actors roundtable, and Robert De Niro was talking about, was it Robert De Niro? Yeah. One of the greats was talking about how with acting, it really isn't something that you can force. It's either there or it's not. And the more you look at it, the more you force it. If you even have to force it, you're already doing it wrong.
Right.
So when I heard that, I was like, why don't I think the same way with music? Like, why is it all about what the end product is going to be and trying to get myself to that? If I'm forcing it, if it already feels unnatural to me, or if it feels, the Tagalog word for it is pilit. Sorry, that's like the one word that I can think of. So if any Filipinos are watching, you know what pilit means? It's like, it literally means forced. It means like you're really just trying to make it happen. Then it's really not going to happen, and it's not going to be what you want it to be. If anything, what we should really aim for in creativity is reaching that flow state and just seeing what comes from there.
Kind of like a dance, wouldn't you say? It's like if you're forcing every movement, then you're a robot. But if you're really just trying to move with it, then it's awesome. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the advantage that dancers have, because it's like they're not. I mean, yes, of course, the end product is the movement, but it also is them getting into a movement that allows them to like create that beautiful visual thing. I don't know. Dancers really like amaze me.
Yeah.
Dancing is actually the inspiration of a record. Like the song is all about a dancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you guys look at the lyrics.
I didn't read over them yet, but I will definitely.
It's okay. I'm kind of still in the process of like, oh, should I put my lyrics up on Genius? Because that's like my dream, especially because I'm like a lyrics like oriented person. I was like, oh, let me not toot my own horn just yet. But my dream is eventually to break down my songs lyric by lyric and explain to people.
Someone interpreting your song and seeing something different, and then you trying to give it a certain message. Do you care either way that goes, or do you have a specific?
I love that. I actually love that. I think that it's so cool that I have a meaning for my lyrics, and it can mean something completely different for another person. It's just having that room for interpretation. It's like, oh, okay, you think, okay, that's cool. Because if they've done that, they have their own interpretation, that means that it's personal to them now.
Right.
And beyond what I've made.
Yeah. and that actually connected with them. That almost is a sign that your work resonated with another person.
Yeah, and that's really the goal of it, isn't it?
It almost seems like that's the ultimate payment too. Back to what you were talking about in the conversation, which that's almost better than any other type of money you'll ever get. It's the fact that you had something that resonated with somebody. Though money is nice, but it's nice to have that genuine connection with another person, and you have a community.
It is. It really is. And like, I think, again, going back to that thing, like trying to learn from disciplines within performing arts, that's what I love so much about DJs, is that their whole thing is about putting out something to get a direct response from the audience. And you can really tell when a DJ knows their audience, or when they have control over the audience, they're really bringing them on this, journey. And it's like, I'm putting this thing out, and some of you guys are really going to be bobbing your head, and you're going to be liking this, but others, you're going to, you might even leave the club because you hate the song. And it's just so amazing to see that, like, real time. And yeah, okay, we're not going to get that now because, quarantine. But it's amazing to see that real time, like, reaction. And I feel like it's a lot different from performing as a live musician, because when you're performing live, this is really your material. So you have a little bit of yourself in it. Unlike with DJs, if they're not playing their own material, if say they're doing like a bootleg mix or whatever, it's like, they're like, I'm playing the song because I know you guys are going to connect with it, and I know you guys are going to vibe with it. And there is a vibe that I recognize in this mix that you guys are going to like.
It's like a mass connection. It's taking someone to a whole nother soundscape's one way of wording it, but it's a whole nother realm, but it's like physically you're in the same spot, but mentally everybody's just in another world. And that's so awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The great thing with lyricists too and singers is it's almost like this hypnotism that people get sucked into if they really like someone who's singing, and their full attention is on you, just doing whatever magic you're doing right now. And that's I think some of the most beautiful part of live music in general, but especially with singers, where you'll just see someone singing and it's like, whoa, and you just get like sucked in.
It's weird because so it differs. Like when you're at a concert, or when you're performing in a concert, especially if lights are bright, you can't see the audience. You just see figures of the audience. So it's kind of freeing, because you can really just do your thing on stage. You cannot see anybody, and like a lot of the pressure's off. But when you're in like really small venues and you can see everybody's face, it's gonna be like, are you comfortable with yourself right now? Because they can see you.
Right.
And so the real challenge is to remain vulnerable, because you need to be vulnerable, and you need to at the same time be confident and put yourself out there. And that's just like, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Like there's nothing like it, but it's also terrifying. But I guess it's like that's the thrill of it.
All the vulnerability, would you say that kind of feeds into it as well, as you're literally opening up your whole soul to the audience? You have to be confident and be like, this is me, this is my creation.
Yeah.
Feel what you want to feel, that's crazy. And it's all in love, I guess you could say. It's with good intentions. You're just trying to create this environment.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's also like, that's the therapy of it. Like that's really what makes it so, like that's why singers do it. Because I know some singers like don't care. They're just like, I need to do this for me. And it's all about, me and my emotion and just putting it out there. If you guys like it, fine. If you don't like it, whatever. But for me, and I know that in the beginning, like when I first started performing in like smaller gigs, like really intimate gigs, it was terrifying for me. So I was like, I don't want y'all to know me. Like, don't look at me, even though I know they are. And sometimes that's what you have to accept, that your voice, no matter whether you like it or not, people are going to pay attention to you. And once you have their attention, it's kind of not your obligation, but connect with them. You need to connect with them. So it sucks because I'm just realizing all of this now, and I don't get to perform live. And I honestly enjoy performing live more than I do recording. I hate recording. I love songwriting, I love music production, and I hate recording my vocals. It's James is over here like, never take 20. I just can't. I don't know. It's just different to me. I just love performing live. But yeah, moving forward in my shows to come, that's the main thing that I want to focus on. I want to give people like an experience. I want to be there with them. I really want to connect with them. I don't know how that's going to be possible in this social distancing world, but
A huge Zoom meeting.
Yeah, connect with me, people. Look at me.
You're vibing, sweet. Yeah, it's not quite the same.
But you know, it might, I don't know, for me, because I like words, I like lyrics. My words of affirmation is definitely my love language. I just love seeing words. So if I have like a live stream and then people are sending me messages, I think I like that more. I think I like that a lot more than me seeing their faces. Please don't look at me. You can listen to me. Please don't look at me.
There's it's almost like a conversation is almost what you're getting at, is that you're having a conversation with you love words, but it's like, well, how do you resonate with what I'm saying? And if it was through a live stream, it'd be like, we love this, da da da, or like, oh, you did that, and you're like, oh yes, and then you like feed back and forth and have it going. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's like, sorry, go ahead. Okay, I didn't know what I was going to go ahead.
It does. And you say like that response from your audience and stuff like that, does that ever get you in trouble with getting into like reading written responses from people that listen to your stuff? Or, I mean, probably a lot of positive reaction to your music, but are you very focused on those things like comments and stuff that people may write or react to?
Let's see. So I'm really big on feedback. I would actually, I'm so grateful whenever anyone gives like a comment on something I've done, especially like new music, even just congratulations, this is great. I love that, definitely, like, because you took time to do that, and I need to show you gratitude for that, and I feel grateful that you've taken the time to do that. But out of all the feedback, I think that I would prefer constructive, almost negative feedback the most. Because
it being constructive is the key one, though. Constructive feedback is.
Yeah. Well, maybe not even, because for me, it's like I determine what's constructive or not. So it's really, even if you give me negative feedback, even if you say like, the feedback I used to get in my early shows was, I can't hear you. I can't understand what you're saying. And I used to be like, that's the engineer. Like, he didn't mix me right. I need more mids in my mic or whatever. But they meant that just like as whatever. But I took it constructively. I took it as, okay, maybe, I do need to enunciate my words more. Maybe I need to take the time to really connect with the music so that I can be heard. So that's how I take it constructively. The reason why feedback is so important to me is because that's user validation. That's going back to, it's my work brain. That's why we make the things that we make. How would we know if it's good if people aren't giving us feedback? So as much as I love the positive stuff does not tell me anything about your experience. Yes, okay, you guys love it. I really appreciate that. But if I'm talking about what's going to make my music better or how I'm going to grow, I need to hear all the bad stuff.
It makes you improve the product if we're taking it hyper to your work brain right now. It's like it helps you improve what you're putting out at that point.
Yeah, and it also makes me think like, what's the impact of the work that I'm giving or doing, or work that I'm doing, and like, is this the impression that I want to give?
How am I being perceived? And maybe the feedback allows you to understand how you're coming across, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And it's like, I always told myself, this is what I was about to say when I was like, hey, let's start recording. I always told myself, and eventually when I started working with James, that for me, what I would define as me like making it, I guess, me making it big, is not when I have fans. even though I love fans, I really appreciate that they like connect with my work. But I know I've made it when the people that I admire, the people that I look up to, are my fans. When I've reached that level, and they're willing to not just tell me that they love my music, but really give me constructive feedback on why they do and how they think I can improve. That's when I've made it, because I'm worth their time. I'm worth like them giving me, I guess, the cosign or something.
They're invested in you at that point. They trust you as an artist. They're like, we really like this, and this is what's resonating.
Yeah.
I think this would be awesome. You're like, oh, that's cool. And you can kind of map it onto what your original sound is and who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a massive relationship with hundreds of thousands of people. It's not
and it's like, it's almost like I feel like music, or like putting yourself out there, it's just like, it's like being a regular human times 1,000, because normally we, even in our day-to-day relationships, we'll get feedback on our personality, on our work ethic, on the things that we're doing in life, and it's really up to us to do what we will with that feedback. We could either get butthurt or we could grow from it. So when you're a musician, when you're an artist, that's just 1,000, because your reach is different. Like your reach is bigger.
And the product is so intimately connected with you as well. Okay?
Yeah. Only part of me though. Like, I think that's what I also like about it, and what the freedom I'm giving myself is that anytime I make an output, it's just who I am at that moment. And I can put everything I have into there, and then I can just let it go. It doesn't necessarily define me or hold me to any, I guess, restrictions or, yeah.
You're not your creations. Did I say that's accurate? Like you create things, but you are the creator. Part of you in that.
No, you're cutting out. What? I create what?
You would say you're not your creations, though you do make them. So it's like there's a separation between you and
yeah, because even I don't know if all artists will agree with me, but sometimes for the sake of the creation, you have to take it to 100, even if it's not necessarily how you feel. You know, it's almost like a caricature of your emotion at that time, or it can be completely you. Whatever it is, it's separate from you. It's a creation out. It can even take on a life of its own.
Like once it goes out to the world, it's not entirely yours anymore.
Yeah, it's the listeners.
Yeah, it's its own thing, interacting with people. It's very cool. So you were talking about live shows earlier, and you're saying you got some anxiety when sometimes you'll see and make direct eye contact with people. Do you think that your upbringing, doing shows and having training when you were younger kind of coached you and got you ready for that when you got older?
No, it didn't. Because when I was performing in musical theater, when I was performing in concerts, I was not singing my own songs. I was the performance. I was a character. Even if I was singing, I was the Ceej, the performer. I'm not really Ceej like the artist, like my music. So it was very easy to put on a character. You're pretty much role playing on that stage, and you have to, be a pop star, be a whatever. But now it's my music. I think that's what makes it scary, because it's really me, and I can't even hide behind a song, because most of the time when you are covering songs, yes, you're supposed to put your own spin on it, but you are singing another person's song, so you have to do the song justice. When you're singing your own stuff, you kind of have to do yourself justice. You do the creation justice, but it's your song, your interpretation.
It's more organic.
Yeah, you can call it organic. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I guess there's more separation if you're doing another person's work.
There is, yeah. And also when people are listening to you, unless they're really hardcore fans, they're really just appreciating the song itself rather than you singing the song. when it's your own music, they want the whole thing. They want you, they want the song, they want the whole experience.
And then in terms of your transition, when you go back to the Philippines, what's you wanted to talk a bit about the culture. You were talking about how the culture is a little different out there when it comes to music, and how is that exactly? I know it's, again, I'm great at asking broad questions, but like,
how is it different? A, B, or C? How would I put this? Filipinos are so talented, like crazy talented. Oh my gosh. And there is a variety. You have some really original artists who can create amazing original work, and then you have some cover artists who just, like, there's so many impersonators there, and that's a form of entertainment. So it's like, of the broad spectrum of entertainment out there, because Filipinos are amazing entertainers, where do I want to fall? I think I just want to find my people. I had a group over there, like I had my band, and that was great. We would perform live, but I personally wasn't in a place, I guess I wasn't comfortable with my artistry all the way to be able to be super authentic and to create the shows that I wanted to create. So when I get back there, I definitely want to work with more artists. I definitely want to work with more producers. Even here, I want to work with more producers, but it doesn't, like, everybody wants to collaborate. So I'm one of those people. So I hope anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you think you like my stuff, please collaborate with me. But yeah, that's what I want to do. And I want to have more live shows. I don't know if that's going to even be possible, but yeah.
It sounds like you're super focused on, obviously making the best quality version of yourself there is, but how important and how much do you enjoy working with other people, collaborating, or like doing joint projects, even though that may not be entirely directly your piece of work? Do you feel like that's important in your growth?
Oh, definitely. I love working with other people. I guess in my work, that's what I realized. Collaboration is really the key to growing as a person and growing your work. It's very much, I know a lot of people can do it. They can work on their own. They can be produced by, directed by, all of that. And if you can, that's amazing. But if you can't, who can you connect with so that your work gets out there? And I'm all about that. For me, it's more fulfilling when I have, say, like, for example, my single, when I had this idea of it, and then our friend Andrew, he came in, the producer, he turned it into something different, completely different, and that's amazing.
Yeah, like, cool to see your idea kind of just work with another musician, another artist, and just have their complete spin change the
take on a life of its own. So that's what I really want to do. And also because it's like another big thing that I'm looking into right now is like so James handles engineering. He's a manager, and he's also just, my buddy in all of this. So it's like we're like the main duo, and then Andrew comes in and he works on the musical part of it, even with my other song, Fly. So right now I'm the marketing mind too, but I don't want to be, honestly. I'm tired. I just want to be the artist. I want to be somebody that directs their work, but I guess it's my experience as being a manager. I understand that there's somebody else out there who has better skills, who can do the manpower better than I can. They just need the direction. And for me to really get where I'm going, I need a team like that. I want to work with people who understand me, who are willing to build a thing, my brand.
Is it hard to find people like that? It sounds like I was super fortunate and lucky to have, Frank as your cousin. That sounds very like natural, but is it difficult to find somebody that's on the same wavelength when it comes to creating? And yeah.
Oh yeah, it's different. It's hard. It really is. Like, I started writing music 2017. The band that I got into, I had known them for a while, but it just so happened that they were interested. Like, his name is Josh. He's a guitarist, and then he introduced me to the rest of his band. But they work bars, they work hotels, like that's kind of stuff that they were doing. And I just realized that I wouldn't have had that opportunity had he not been open to, making a band in the first place, taking on a vocalist, making music. So it's like, it's so difficult to find people with the timing who are like also willing to put in work, and they're not necessarily sure if they're going to get paid right away. It's like that. It's a startup. This music is a startup, and it's like, how do you find people that are willing to bootstrap the way that you are? It's hard. But I'm not. Sorry, I'm not. But I also have a lot of faith and a lot of hope that people will come. If you build it, they will come. So, yeah.
It's being with those people, maybe that they enjoy the payoff of just enjoying the process of making music and going through all of this stuff, as opposed to wanting the immediate gain out of it. I think maybe finding individuals that are down to just go through the process with you, even though they might not get an initial return on their investment, is so cool.
Yeah. I think I personally work on a principle of generosity. Like, I believe that even if I won't, get mine in the beginning, if I am so generous with my work, eventually I will. And even sometimes the output will be the proof that, I can work and that I'm willing to, give my all to something. And it's hard to find people like that. It's hard to find people that will work beyond, pay or beyond immediate gain. So, yeah, but I'm just going to keep putting it out there and hope for the best.
That's all you can do, right? And that's a really interesting thing you tap on, like give, and then you're receiving, but it's like that generosity first, and then you put the hand out and ask for something. So
yeah, because a lot of people don't do that, and I understand, because they're afraid of, number one, getting fucked over, or they've had bad experiences in the past. And I understand that. I understand why people, definitely we should pay people what they deserve. But, when you're first starting out and you're really just starting to build your career, you got to do a lot for free. Like, you got to eat a lot of, what did I get some? You got to eat a lot of shit. Shit sandwich. Yeah, you got to eat a lot of shit sandwiches. And I'm fine. I ate my shit sandwiches. I started 2017. I finished like one of my first songs like 2018. I had to wait 2 whole years before even one song came out. And that's just because I was able to come back here and work with James. But like, we never know when things are going to pay off. You just got to keep going.
And why that length of time specifically for you? Why did it take about a year to get that initial EP out? Is that just because it wasn't how you wanted it to be yet, or was that due to other people?
Oh no, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the manpower. Like, it literally, I was with my band and we were performing live. We were performing all of our songs live. Actually, right now, I have around 10 songs that are just all ready to go, ready to record, ready to go into production. But that's the thing, right? Go into production. And then once you do that thing, it's like maybe half of them will make it. Right. So you just gotta do like a lot of something, because circumstances will make it smaller and smaller. And it was weird because I never even thought that record was gonna be my first single out. Yeah, it wasn't even, it just happened to be, because it was the one that everything fell together to make that happen. So it's not out of choice. I'm an impatient person. I would have wanted that ASAP. But I'm also going to give my work the time that it needs to grow.
Become something even better at the end. So you have those 10 songs, and what ends up being 5 that come out. Those 5 are way better than what initially would have come out. It has to go through that trial by fire. And it creates these things at the end of the day.
And sometimes like things just like don't work out, and like that's why I like to give that separation between like me and my work, and let the work take on a life of its own, because who knows what it's going to be. And it needs to, some songs need to pivot, just like companies. They need to grow. They need to innovate. The song and me need to innovate.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
On the other side of things, though, do you ever notice like hanging on to a project, or just keeping like working on something that might have been better off just like letting it go and
dying? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes there are some songs where I'm just like, "Hey, James, you wanna work on that one song? You know, we were working." He's like, "Which one?" I was like, "Oh, baby, you remember one of the first songs I showed you?" And I'm just like, "I don't want to let it die just yet." But I think songs reach a natural death,
Yep.
and also sometimes you just gotta step away from it, and it will get better when you are away from it. You need to like have a fresh perspective. It needs to die and be reborn.
Phoenix, so that do its thing. Do you think stepping away from it like that takes some stress off of you as well? Because you're not so tied into it, and then because if you're taking ownership for every little thing about that song, I feel like that's a recipe for a lot of stress.
It is, and sometimes it just doesn't feel right. I think when it comes down to it, the real insecurity there is just the frustration of not being able to perform. It's like, because you have this expectation of what the song should be and how you want it to be, and then you get frustrated, like, why am I not delivering on it? Why is it not what I want it to be? So then you get frustrated with yourself. So you just need to step away, because it's like we discussed, like if you force it, it's just never going to happen.
Right. And then experiment with when you're singing a song. Do you ever, you've just written a new song and you want to try it out with your group or by yourself, and you try it live and you see how they react to it, and then depending on the reactions, then you edit it more and kind of
yeah, that's really important to me too, is that they vibe with it, because I can't be the only one like pushing this, you know, carrying this dead horse. It's like, you guys have to like this too, or it's not going to work. And I think that's actually a style of mine that has been a little bit of like an area. It's kind of hard, because it's like me, I'm really into like experimenting with things. Like I'll do a little bit of a song and I'll be like, okay, can we try it this way? How about this way? Another way. And it'll be just the same part but 5 different ways. And they're like, what's the difference in it? Like, why would you put in all that effort just for this one thing? And it's like, you have to experiment. Like, you have to just go through all of the possibilities, because you never know what it's gonna, you know, you won't know how it sounds like till you hear it.
It's so interesting too, because you have a jazz background as well, so that's so jazzy though, just to see. And it's like, what about this sound? What about this?
Yeah, right. And it's also like when you're sitting down with this is something that I prefer to do on my own, because it's really embarrassing to do in front of other people. The whole scatting thing. Sometimes you scat and you're like, what the fuck did I just sing? Like, what did that? Okay, I was definitely flat there. Like, I was definitely flat there. I was definitely sharp there. And when you're by yourself, you don't gotta apologize to anybody. But when you're sitting down with, like, say with the producer, you're just like, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm just trying to get out of that mindset, because it's like, what you have to experiment. You won't ever really know.
Yeah. Well, I think that sometimes that's where people get stuck too, is it's all theories in their head and they don't actually experiment and see how it resonates. And then in your head, you can create this perfect system, and then it's great to you, but you haven't mirrored it off of other people yet. So you don't have that reality check.
Yeah.
What is that? You
No
mentioned
validation.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Back to business, back to your job.
You mentioned the idea of like sometimes just having to step away if you get too much into that mindset. What does that look like for you? I mean, I know you're very busy with trying to get this up and running and working too. So what is like stepping away look like for you?
So what does it look like for me? I time box things. So when we're working on a song and I can already feel the energy of, say, like with James, I'm asking a lot out of him. So I'll be like, okay, hard stop, 2:30. That's when we're going to stop working on this song. And then we'll be like, tomorrow I'll be like, hey, do you want to work on the song again? Or maybe a few days later, like, do you want to work on the song again? So it's just like giving each other that space and really kind of reading the room. Like, is this working out? Is it not? But also doing that with yourself. You know, it's like, I definitely believe in deep work, sitting down with something and really focusing on it. But if you've exhausted everything and I don't think I used the right metaphor. Was it beating a dead horse? Carrying a dead horse? I don't know. Something about a dead horse.
I wouldn't judge yourself too much.
The dead horse.
Dead horse heavy. And we got that.
Yeah, it's just, you kind of just have to just walk away from it. But also, going back to the whole design thinking thing, I don't want to get into it because it's kind of long process, but there's this thing about there are divergent activities and divergent thinking, and then there's convergent thinking, convergent activities. So divergent is when you're being very open-minded, when you're thinking about all the possibilities, and convergent is when you are narrowing down and choosing just one thing, or being very analytical to choose one thing. And I try to keep that in mind when I feel stuck on something. It's like, am I stuck on this because I should actually be divergent at this moment and I'm limiting my choices? And that's why I need to walk away. And that's why I'm getting, I'm stuck.
Right. That's so cool too, because you could switch your thought process while you're working on it and be like, well, let's try spreading it out a bit and see what happens after that. And then let's come back in once that gets too chaotic and then try to create something.
Yeah, it's really giving yourself permission to do that, but also being very deliberate about the way that you're seeing something.
How so? For you?
But by flipping that switch, it's like a lot of people don't really put thought into their thought, the way that they see things. They just think that, okay, if I'm reacting this way to this thing, that's it. But it's like, try to look at it from another perspective. Like, why are you so frustrated with this thing? How are you viewing it? I definitely I am my biggest therapist.
That's psychology and this type of stuff too. Creating music or even marketing, seeing how people respond to what you're putting out. It's a conversation just without words and with words in different contexts.
It is. And psychology is something that I'm actually really interested in. I told myself, I don't even know if it's going to be my backup plan or if it's just something I want to do, but I wanted at one point, literally in the past few months, to take my master's in clinical psychology. I just like, let me do that. Because
so not clinical psychs, but we do social work.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Dude, because it's like psychology is literally everything. And the reason why I wanted particularly psychology is because I told myself if I wasn't going to take psychology, I wanted to take philosophy, because philosophy is what I originally wanted to do in college. You're a philosophy major?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. And usually, like, you can take philosophy as a pre-law. That's common. But the school that I went to, I took legal studies, which is like business law. So I didn't end up taking that. And I just realized that if I really wanted to see applied philosophy, the way that, we think, the way that we live, I'll just go into psychology.
Yeah.
And then I'm here. I'm in music.
It's detours.
You're very diverse.
That's kind of creativity, though, to an extent. Zigzags.
Yeah.
Zigzags up the path. And you kind of get to somewhere.
I noticed the other day you posted, there's something about like there's like 8 books that every guy at age 20 kind of follows life around, and it's funny because we have to talk about Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Wait, what's your book?
My book?
Yeah.
12 Rules for Life is a really good one. In terms of applying philosophy practically in day-to-day life to actually make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a couple. Devin had read a couple of them off to me. I've read a couple. I haven't read Foucault, but probably more 12 Rules for Life is this point in my life, just kind of getting my shit together and trying to be a decent human. That's kind of the goal. And then just bounce around, looking at things differently. I saw Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. That's a whole adventure I haven't gone on yet, but that one looks interesting.
I know. I am definitely I'm Sisyphus all the way. For sure. Oh yeah, that's music. That's music, that's life, that's business, that's everything. And just like being able to step back and be like, oh, this shit is absurd.
Yeah, it really is though. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so philosophy is another thing I would say that inspires my music. It's weird to me that the first song that came out was a love song, because in the beginning I couldn't write love songs. Like all of my songs were about like who I wanted to be as a person, like how I should be living as a person, being unhappy with the way that I was living. And then I ended up writing a love song, but it's okay. I'll get to it. But yeah, I wanted to teach, I want to, I guess, make philosophy more accessible to people through music, because people don't really realize that, philosophy really is the background of everything that we do. So maybe I will end up studying it so that I can be a little bit more credible in my music creation.
You learn a lot just by, having conversations and thinking through things. I think there's a lot of different gateways to get to it. I mean, and then the books are everywhere. It's not like you have to, nowadays with the internet, you don't really have to fight to find them. They're right there.
True, very true. I think I really appreciate when creators like, what's a good one? Wisecrack. I really love that channel because they talk about philosophy a lot, but then they do it in the perspective of pop culture. So that's really cool to me. And I wanted to kind of do something similar or
That's an ultimate goal for you, is you kind of want to create a platform for people to be able to think and examine their lives differently through your work. Is that a direction you want to go into?
Yeah, I guess I just want people to start, questioning their lives and start questioning themselves, everything, and then also just feel empowered to do so. I feel like at the end of my life, everything's gonna make sense. Like I'm just trying to follow whatever feels like intuitive. Like, okay, I'm gonna go into business and then I'm gonna go into music and maybe philosophy, psychology. I think it'll make sense in the end.
Well, it's like the movie doesn't always make sense when you're in it, but then you look back and you can see the scenes. You're like,
yeah.
That was Act 1. No wonder things were so confusing.
Yeah.
You're in Act 4. Like, okay, everything's starting to line up a bit.
Makes sense.
This is the story of my life, child. You want to listen? You can tell it.
So you guys are still in college?
We both graduated there.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We both graduated.
Okay. When did you guys graduate? How long ago?
That was May, so I'm a new into the workforce individual.
I'm 2018.
Yeah.
Dude, when did I graduate? Yeah, I'm in 2018. I think I graduated in 2018. I'm just trying to remember. It feels weird, right? To start your adult life during this time, like adult life during this time.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting too, though. I guess it's such an interesting time to be alive. There's so much going on, and you really don't know where things are going to go right now either. At least domestically in the U.S. right now, we're not really sure what direction things are going to go in every day. It's really either hyper stressful or hyper adventurous, depending on your perspective, I think.
They look at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for growth. There's a lot of opportunities to try different things out. We're not in a world war, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, I can appreciate that this time gave people the opportunity to look inwards because they were forced to. It's worrisome though, because you realize that a lot of people don't have, I guess, the tools to look inwards, or when they do feel really distraught. Yeah. And I think that's where things like psychology, like philosophy, can really help us, empower us. But is it common? Is it something that people know that they should go to, that these are things they should use that are accessible to them?
How so? So do you, in terms of going to think like that and observing their life and kind of trying to do the internal work, are you asking if that's common for people to understand?
Yeah. I think, but that's pretty much, yeah, I see he's going, nah, it's not.
I think people are starting to understand intuitively that something's wrong and they should probably do something to address that. However, I think we look externally more so than internally right now, because it's scary and we don't necessarily have the equipment to process our lives in that dimension yet, at least with the tools we've been using for the past century. My opinion.
And I think knowledge is probably a little different than being able to practically use those tools.
Yeah.
So I think it's maybe common for people to say I need to be a little bit more aware and change some things in my life. But I don't think a lot of people are have that stage of change where they are going to use those tools and enact that change.
Yeah, and you could even say that it takes a tipping point for each person to make that decision.
For sure.
Because I don't have an option. So if you're Sisyphus on the hill and you're pushing the rock up and you feel like your arms are about to fall off and it's rolling you down the hill, it's I need to change how I'm pushing the rock. When people hit that point, I think that's when the healing happens.
Yeah.
You start realizing that you are Sisyphus, but at the same token, you can kind of escape from that tension and pain by just understanding that you can sit in your own awareness, if that makes sense, and you can let go of all that pressure sometimes. And
I think that's what I like about music, because it just, I guess, the least intimidating of all of the inner work.
Yeah.
Because it's something that just it almost fools us.
Mhm.
Like when you hear a melody and you hear a song, you're like, I'm not feeling anything, and then suddenly it starts to creep in, and you're just like, oh God, that hit right there, and then it starts to get you thinking. It's more of a natural flow of thought when you're thinking about something when you're listening to a song, unlike somebody, or even asking yourself, like, are you happy right now? That's a hard question.
Very much so. And sometimes people aren't honest with themselves either, and it takes time to figure out what that is for you, exactly like Devin said. So you can have a lot of ideas about what you think would make you happy and what you think should make you happy and what should make you feel okay, but it takes that practical stepping forward to say, oh, intuitively, like you're very intuitive, it's like, this is actually what fits me, and I'm locked in, this is what's right. And like you said, with music, it's such an interesting channel that just opens up a relationship with yourself and with others, but it does it in a way that's so pretty and, for lack of a better term, seductive, that you just you get sucked into it. And it's like something singing to you. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look at it for a second. It's like, oh, hey, buddy, and then you kind of start figuring things out. It's a really beautiful thing. So thank you for doing what you do. It's helpful.
It's needed. It's definitely needed.
It's a service.
I'm just trying. I feel like a lot of the reason why I got into music, it felt, at one point it was like a nagging feeling. Like, if I don't get into this, I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life. I need to know. And it's just I'm just keep going. There's more questions that come up after answering that first. So what's going to happen when you do this? It's another question. And life is just full of questions that you're just trying to answer. You're just trying to live.
I feel like it was a calling in that sense. It's almost like it's a calling. It's like, oh, you could do this, and you're like, oh, okay, hey, and then it's like,
it's so weird to me because my whole life I was told that I should do this. And I think that is a little bit of that. I guess that's where I have the upper hand. I have a very supportive family. Of course, I have. It's hard. It's like, how do I say this? I never really had the problem of not knowing what to do. I always had the problem of like having too much to do and wanting to do different things. That's why I've changed my mind so many times, because I'm like, maybe if I do this, I'll be happy. Maybe do this, I'll be happy, or maybe I'll enjoy this. So they supported me no matter what I was going to do. And I think that really is that's really what is the hard part about it, is like having the autonomy to just choose not just one thing, but to do a thing.
And it's that validation thing you were talking about earlier too. It's like, from what do you allow, or what do you focus on as like your main source of validation? I think that's important. So
yeah,
oftentimes people want to create something because they want to be validated and accepted and loved, but in reality you're already accepted and loved, and you're just creating something that you're trying to
and then it boils down to you. And you can make a bunch of excuses like, oh no, I can't do this because my parents won't approve, or my friends won't approve, or they're gonna think I'm weird if I say this. But ultimately it's like, how comfortable are you going to be with yourself? And I realized that if I didn't pursue music, or if I didn't even try it, then I wouldn't be happy with myself.
Which makes you, a more integrated full person by pursuing it in the first place, regardless of where it goes. Which that, I think, is another nugget of it that is important to acknowledge. Yeah. At least in what you're saying as well, is this what this process has been for you. It's like, you just got to acknowledge it's part of becoming who you are. And like, it'll make more sense in Act 4. I like when you're looking back and you're like, yeah, I went through all that stuff and I learned who I was. I did this and I tried this, resonated with people, all that good stuff. I
realize that like we live such long lives. My gosh, we could do like 4 career pivots and be fine.
Yeah, nowadays, and there's so much opportunity. It's crazy. Long but short, in my opinion. Like it goes by quick, but there's a lot in it. But then it goes long sometimes. Time's such a trippy thing. Ceej, it's very crazy. Another thing that music makes you lose track of too. You sink into it, and minutes can go by, and it feels like an eternity. in the best way possible.
Yeah. Very relative.
Muy relativo.
Okay, you guys talk a little bit more. I want to hear more about you guys. Or like, what are some of the things you're writing down?
So we take notes. So we'll take notes when you're saying things, and then we just like to reference it, and that helps us structure what we're talking to you. A lot of it, though. We were talking about creative process, how you run through everything, how things look for you. We even got into a little bit of philosophy, which was awesome. And we also like to talk about, stuff that's in the chamber for you, for stuff that's coming out, so we can, keep people posted as to what's going on in your life. And we always like to have people able to connect with you in your process. If anything, that's what we want to provide as this podcast, is a point of connection where we can get a couple more viewers to look at your stuff or watch you as you're developing through what your thing is, like what your process is. And we want people to watch you grow and become what you are, and give you that sort of publicity, which I feel like artists don't always get. So.
Yeah, especially the ones that are, even the ones that are just like, even the big ones, they really don't get to see, the intimate side of them. And I really appreciate that you guys have this platform, and it really does align with like what I want to do. I really grew up in like the YouTuber age. And what I can appreciate about YouTubers is that they share their journey with you. And there really is a satisfying feeling when you grow with somebody, whether it's, family, friends, but when it's a complete stranger that, you just resonate with their work, it just hits different. And I think I want to show as much as I can of my journey and myself to my audience, because I want them to grow too. It's like, all the things that I learned about songwriting, I learned through experience. And yeah, for sure, I Googled most of them first. And there was like there isn't one place I could find. There wasn't really just like one person I could look to. I kind of had to, take from everywhere. And maybe I can be that person for somebody out there, just to inspire them to, do their thing. Like, watch me grow and grow as well. It's just a little weird because it does feel like reality television a little bit, and then just the specimen that people are watching, and it's like, but that really is the goal.
Well, it's like the sense of we're all in this together. It's beautiful. You've mentioned a couple of times that music to you is therapy, and I think we'll both echo that very much so. The ability to connect with an artist and realize that they're going through some of the same things that we are. That's one of the beauties of life.
Yeah, and just that process of living and going through the stages of your life, it's a beautiful thing. And kind of what you were talking about too is I think we have the power to choose what we choose to share, on what we're documenting. Because it's the same thing when we were talking about creating things earlier. It's you choose what you let go into the community and you let the world see. But yeah. Sometimes it can feel like reality TV, though, and you got to walk that line, I think, as a person, is how much do you want to document. Some people document nothing, and some people document absolutely everything. And there's like, depending on your personality and how you want to work that. But it's an interesting thing for sure, and definitely unprecedented. Did not happen 200 years ago.
Definitely not.
Great.
But I think that what has remained the same. Even though we do have things like podcasts, we do have music now, written stuff like that, documented things. I don't think anything can really compare to things that are written. Like, written text or things that are written down. Because it's like, if you think about, all the philosophers that we love, we don't know the intricacies of their life. We don't get to see them on video. All we have is their word. Yeah. All we have is their text. And so it's got me thinking, like, beyond music, what do I really want to have like documented of myself? Like, do I want to write maybe one day? Like, shouldn't we all? I mean, just because we have all these different mediums, like, let's not let go of words.
Yeah, that's like one of the most fundamental ways of communicating. It's one of the oldest forms of
art. And it works for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think, oh my God, the light dropped. One sec. Can you guys cut that out? You don't have to. Sorry, I pulled the cord.
Oh man.
Okay, let me just technical setup.
Please.
All right. And we're back.
And we're back. It's so crazy to think that
Ouch.
everyone's archived now, though. Like, everyone's going to see us when we were in our 20s. Like, our grandkids will look back and see old photos of us and, like, videos of us in our 20s. And be like, holy crap, that's cool.
No, right? That's gonna be so weird. Do you guys think you have an ultimate age? Is that what you guys?
Like when I'm gonna go into the earth, or is that what you're getting?
No. It's like, if you think about your lifetime, do you think that there's gonna be a point in your life where you're gonna be like, I am my fullest self, like by this time, like I will be my fullest self.
Not so.
Ultimate.
I don't know.
Progress up until the last day. I mean, that's my.
I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna understand more, but I feel like you never really stop growing. It's the beautiful thing. Like, I feel like you're just gonna be a more complete version of yourself. I hope I'm not too set in my routines at age 60. I like to have some nuance. Try some different things.
Oh my gosh, to be an old person, that's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I just have like stuck in my mind that when I'm 40, it's just like 40 is like my age. Yeah, it's like everybody, I don't understand. I kind of understand the obsession with youth. It's like everybody wants to stay in their 20s forever. And yeah, okay, being 20 is so great, but it's also so fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, you are so insecure about everything that in a few years won't mean shit. And I don't know, there's just something about the age of 40 where I feel like everything will kind of work out. Or not work out, I will be the ultimate.
Yeah, well, I feel like you go through these phases and you get weathered by the shocks of growing up, and then you just slowly get more acclimated to your environment, and that can happen quicker or slower depending on who you are. Because I've at least noticed talking to people, even in the clinical setting, I'm by no means the clinician. I am a paper monkey, but I do talk to people and you realize just like some people don't grow up no matter what age they are, even if they're 40. You don't move past certain things. And
oh my god, that's so terrifying to me. I'd much rather have my midlife crisis like right now.
Right.
I'm having my midlife crisis right now since I was like 20.
What happens to people have traumatic experiences, or they're shocked by something in their life and just don't continue psychically developing. And that's so crucial, I think, is just to go through and try shit out and have your mid-youth crisis and just kind of figure
that's definitely something that I had, I guess, an inkling of very early on, but I didn't understand it and I couldn't give it a name until recently when I started studying a little bit more about psych. I didn't realize how important rupture and repair was in our everything.
Right.
Like, not just our relationships, of course, rupture and repair comes from our romantic relationships or like even familiar relationships, but just even having rupture and repair in ourselves is the biggest thing. It's like I'm a big advocate of knowing all of the horrible stuff about you as early as possible so that you can not fix it, but so that you can come to terms with it.
Right.
And I feel like what holds back a lot of people from becoming their fullest self is just shame. Shame is probably the biggest thing. Shame of accepting who we are, just being who we are. And once you get over that, then there are more problems to deal with, but they kind of just aren't as bad as that first thing of shame.
Yeah, absolutely. But you made an interesting point too with the obsession of youth that people have. That might be from industrialization, I think. So we were so focused on nuance and just kind of like the vibrancy of being young and full of potential. So like potential, but
yeah,
that might be the thing that holds people from growing up too, though, is you're fighting the forces that are telling you to grow to your environment. You're like, no, I gotta stay 25 forever. You're 21.
I feel that though, especially with music. I think that's why I'm a little bit rushed when it comes to music, because I do realize that there is kind of this unspoken limit when it comes to music. Definitely they lean towards, the youth, and, the younger that you are and you make it, the more impressive it is.
Yeah.
But I think if anything, the impact I want to make is I want to make music for every time of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I do see myself still making music at 40 and then saying things that I wouldn't be able to understand it when I was 25.
It's almost like you know, dating in your 20s versus a relationship in your 40s. Like sometimes things will shift, you know, like, and then I guess that'll make more sense if I say more things to clarify what I mean. But there's this obsession with that romantic comedy, and people like living in the romantic comedy land, you know, in their 20s, and then, you know, you can find a different type of relationship that matures and is more holistic and healthy.
Romantic comedies are just so, they're escapism for sure. Like, even for me, like, yeah, if I want to escape from anything that I'm dealing with right now, I'll just put on a romantic comedy. But they're just so cringy. Like, they're just so...
Well, it puts a nice bow on things too. I think it'll end the story and then they lived happily ever after. But it doesn't get into the part 2 months later where it's like they were fighting about Cheerios, and then like that's part of the dynamic.
Yeah. I really feel like it gives people unrealistic expectations about love, not just because of the happy ending, but because I personally believe that, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack over this, especially people who are like, say, you know, asexual, whatever. But in my personal experience, I believe that you don't really know yourself until you are in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, connects you with the opposite of yourself in some way.
It's more so, I mean, okay, one part is very emotional because yes, you will open up yourself to somebody, but it's also very logical. If you think that in all your lifetime, you can be very close to your parents, you can be very close to your sibling, but you will never be as close to anyone in the world as much as your romantic partner.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. It's physically not possible, emotionally not possible. That person knows you as much as you're willing to show of yourself. But most of the time, even if you're not willing to, they will know you. That's just the vulnerability of being in a relationship. So once you experience that, you will find out things about yourself that you didn't even know. How you react when it comes to fights, how crazy you can be, how devastated you can be when somebody hurts you. So I think it's really important for people to get into relationships and get into the deep, crazy shit of relationships so that you can learn about yourself, because you will, there's no other way to know. Aside from, you know, the relationship with yourself. We're talking about like how you relate to other people.
Yeah.
There's no other more intimate relationship.
For sure. And then the next step seems to be probably your kids too. It's the only other level of, you know, deep intimacy that you get. And with kids, it's right off the bat. It's like they're just there and they're your new.
No.
It's like, whoa. It's like, I'm responsible for you now. This is crazy.
I know, it is. But I feel like you really need to have a good relationship with yourself. And of course, you know, with anyone who becomes your partner, to have a really good relationship with your kids, unless you're willing to go through that rupture and repair with your kids.
Yeah, which can cause more stress and, you know, some waves, I think.
Yeah, but it's also something that I recommend because it's something that I went through with my parents, definitely. Like, I definitely know my parents and my parents really know me. And of course, it was very uncomfortable at times. I've helped them through a lot of their, you know, their problems. But as crazy as it would be, it's made us closer than ever. And it's made me very accepting of human nature and very understanding. And it's like when they say like, oh, your parents aren't perfect, like nobody is perfect, that's what they mean. It's just you have no idea what these people go through, and you become very understanding.
Because you feel like you got to know them better with age, and then you realize that, you know, there's different dimensions of their personality rather than just mom and dad, and then that makes you.
Oh yeah, and they're human. Like, they are human. And as much as you're struggling, they're definitely struggling because they're human with kids. They're human with offspring.
Whole other dimension. Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing, Devin, we talked about this the other day, but it's crazy that we don't actually just acknowledge other people as thinking things sometimes with their own feelings, experiences, traumas, everything. You just see them as a person that's in your experience, but in reality, they have their own experiences. And it's bridging a gap through empathy and compassion to be able to, and context, to view them as something that's a complex entity just like you, you know, and that's another step. It's kind of mind-boggling if you try to accept it too. And it's like, whoa, like, you think too, Devin? Jesus. That was all my own experience.
You're not just providing stimulus for me to understand my life? What?
Yeah, that's this contest of just learning to coexist. It's a delicate art, that's for sure.
Definitely. And empathy is just it's such a big thing, such a big value. That's actually that's the main value of design thinking and user experience. Like that is the core value of it all. Empathy and understanding and all that stuff.
It runs so contrary to a lot of traditional business practices. I think in the 90s, even 2000s, it was like, we're going to create this product and math says that you're going to like it, we're going to give it to you. And then now it's more like relationship with the consumer.
That's because sometime in the 90s, businesses became people. Like businesses became a personality.
Yep.
Like look at Coke when they made that switch to become very humanistic and show human values. Like when you watch the commercials, it isn't about oh, Coke tastes so great. It's about share the taste or taste the feeling is another motto that they like to use. And that's just so fascinating to me because when they started to make that shift, everybody else followed. Now everybody's a person.
Yeah.
Every company's a person. Like you can talk to Wendy's on Twitter if you want to.
Yeah. It's fundamentally it's sugar water, and then it's got this whole personality though.
Yeah.
And it's wow, it's different.
You know, the sugar water is better than the sugar water.
Yeah. Look at this sugar water.
Sugar water with feelings. But it's great because it really is reflective of the shift that we have culturally, where empathy is the driving factor for everything. Businesses are starting to realize, and that's the reason why the business that I'm in right now, it is doing so well because they realize that they need to be good to their customers. They need to understand their customers or they're not going to make it. It's that's what's going to make a company something that we're dealing with right now is trying to figure out what companies are thriving in this pandemic and what companies are not. And this goes beyond logistics. It really is about how much the company is willing to understand the people that they're dealing with or their end customer, how empathetic they're willing to be, and also to their own employees. So I feel that's just something that's going to be empathy is definitely something that is going to stick with us, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to pay attention to for the next decade, even more so.
Probably more. It's probably going to be probably one of the things that characterizes our time period.
Right? Isn't that exciting? That's a generation.
It's awesome. It's definitely a shift. It's more going external, more to interpersonal and internal. There's not as many looming external issues anymore. Whether we want to or not, we might not want to, which a lot of people are kicking and screaming. Most likely will until we break and we'll start doing it. So it'll be fun. It'll be great.
Interesting time. It's a great time to be able. Yeah. Great may not be the best word. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, we'll be we'll have music and live performances to, soothe it a bit and we'll connect and hug at a festival and then get right back into it.
You kind of touched on. Do you have any relation? Do you guys like electronic music? You touched on DJs and that you respect DJs, but we haven't even talked about
James, do we like EDM?
Oh, we love it.
I saw him sneaking up at the bottom right there. There he is.
Yeah, he's there. He's just chilling. Do we like EDM?
Oh, we love EDM. Love EDM here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely love EDM. That's a genre I want to get into for sure. I'm already kind of starting. Have a few songs I'm working on now. It's just you guys talk, then I will talk.
Well, vocalists in EDM is a huge component of EDM. Though you need people to sing a story, and then there's a certain vibration that I think vocalists can bring to EDM songs. Where you just take it to a whole another level of it being interpersonal and intimate. And sometimes you can't do that with just the sound. You need the story.
Yeah, they make it an anthem. That's what I love about EDMs is that they're anthems.
Well, it's a whole other layer to the feeling too, because there's what you can explain with words, and then there's all the awesome sound design that is electric dance music, and then just brings people into an embodied experience, which is so gorgeous, which is probably why we named this podcast after DJing, other than it being our first names and our initials, but
it worked out.
We have a lot of...
Right, okay, I see. DJ CJ, hi. Or Ceej, my nickname. Maybe you guys should be Deej. That should be your combined name. When you're referring to the duo, Deej.
We'll wear it with a smile.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to see the entanglement of, analog instruments and vocalists, but then you also have this whole new component of music that's like, it is a couple decades old now, but like completely, unheard of before that.
Yeah.
It's another aspect of music.
And how sophisticated sound design's gotten over the past 2 decades.
You can create anything, like literally anything.
Yeah.
Any sound.
Like
Anything.
Like a banger, and then now if you listen to it, it's so simple. It's like yeah, and then now compared to some of the stuff coming out, it's not even in the same realm. Yeah. But it's still like an anthem that people reference all the time. It was an inspiration for future sound designers, and you just get to watch that process. We've had the privilege of talking to sound designers on the show. It's interesting to see their whole how they think through it, and you're not alone when you're talking about how you're kind of being intuitive with it. You don't know the exact music design process, and we've talked to sound designers who are like, yeah, we just looked stuff up on YouTube and then we figured it out.
Wing it until cool.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not totally like I'm not being like blasphemous in the way that I approach sound design, but that's another reason why I totally wanted to do it, because I'm so amazed by producers. Like I definitely, when it comes to songs with lyrics, with singing, producers can't be without singers, but all the more singers can't be without producers. And I have so much love and respect for producers, for musicians, and I think that that's one of the things like I'm really looking forward to collaborating with really amazing producers, really amazing engineers, all that stuff. Yeah, I love EDM. I really do. And it's like it's strange. It's like it's a love that only really came recently. Like I always knew I enjoyed it. And sadly, my first exposure to it was clubbing. Filipinos are big partiers. The age of drinking is as early as you want. So you can party pretty much like whenever, even on weekdays, all that. So I first heard EDM in the club, and I didn't realize that was what made the experience, but it did. And then as I got older, I came over here, I realized that EDM is it's a culture. It's like the experience of it and the way that you connect with people and the feeling that you get when you're listening to it. Especially, under the influence of certain substances that make it even more amazing. It's really, I feel like it's the next, I don't want to call it the next level of music, because, that would mean that, the last level wasn't that good, but it really feels like a step in the right direction. And I feel like eventually all music is going to have a little bit of EDM in it, and I am so excited for that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just different. It's using technology to express art differently.
Yeah.
You think about it too. Just guitars were technology, just a different type.
Exactly.
With strings and make a sound. Started with drums, and we just keep changing how we express ourselves.
And then the electric guitar came around, and people lost their minds. And
Yes. So it seems right. This is the progression of music, and I feel like what just is disheartening is when I meet musicians. There's like, what the fuck, EDM? Like that's shit. And are you what? But then when it's kind of like that. If you know, if you get it, you get it type of things. Then okay, fine. To let it be, because there's some people that live and die for heavy metal. I have a friend that can listen to heavy metal and sleep. Like that's what he uses to sleep. I'm like, wow, you're insane. And so maybe he feels the same way, or anyone else who's the same way about EDM. Like they don't understand why we listen to it, but it resonates with us, and that's great.
I really think with the diversification of the genres within EDM, like eventually there's going to be unless somebody's just stubborn, like there's going to be no reason why somebody is going to be like, oh, I don't mess with EDM. Like a heavy metal person, like could probably listen to some really hard, like dubstep, like Sylvan King type stuff, and eventually like get into.
They'll like it, yeah. They'll kind of see like their thing of it, and I think that's kind of what got me into it first, because I started with what did I start with? I started with dubstep because of like the hip hop.
Yeah.
Like I could hear it, and I really love hip hop. I really love rap. I was just telling James the other day, out of all the songs to produce, hip hop is probably the easiest. Like when it comes to just making a beat, not making the song itself. It just seems the most it comes together the most naturally. So of course I like dubstep first. But what really got me into EDM is actually EDM pop. It was all of the songs that, I heard at the club, but the ones that had the vocals in them, because they were anthems. And from there I got into like, now I'm really into house. I really found myself like getting into that genre. And I'm just like so excited to like explore it and be a vocalist. And, just at this point, if I really like a beat, I will go up to the producer and be like, let me sing on this track. That's how much I respect EDM.
Right. And it seems like you singing is a vehicle for you to get involved in all this different type of music as well, which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's
exciting.
It brings you something, it allows you to bring something to the table, and it allows you to have a conversation with them and get involved in that process, which is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been to a festival, but nothing like, not a huge one. And that's really something that I want to do. Not the best time to start for the first time. I probably won't be able to go to a festival for years to come, but that's definitely something that I want to do, especially because I understand the whole the experience of it. Even how like how rated is your guys' podcast? Can you guys talk about drugs?
We've kept it pretty comparatively to other episodes, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So that's another thing that I'm really into. I'm a firm believer in the use of like psychedelics and all those things for like assisted therapy. So even for myself, it's really something that changed my life. I can honestly say I'm definitely like a tripper. It's something that has helped me in my music, helped me with my personal life, and I feel like festivals are a part of that, and I can't wait to take it to that next level. It does sadden me though sometimes, when people they go for the trip, the experience, and it's not much of an inner journey, and that sometimes gets suppressed. But to each their own. Everybody's gonna kind of figure it out on their own. But yeah, that's definitely what I want to do.
I see psychedelics as, in some of those, substances you're referencing, as like a tool, like a hammer. It's like you can use a hammer to build a house, or you can use a hammer to smack yourself in the...
Wow, I like that. That's really good.
I feel like it was a similar analogy with when we had done something, but it felt like a squat rack except for my soul, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Weight on, then I would get hurt. But if I put the right amount of weight on, it was just a great...
Why does it feel like, oh, you definitely did acid, that's for sure.
So it's yeah, I think it's just the way you go into it, the mindset you go into it with, and you can learn. Like, I feel like with psychedelic assisted therapy that you're talking about, like I can't imagine how much of that like barrier you would break through with the therapist if it was like, if you're tripping like with them, it would be years of comfortability just like blown out. Like those walls that you create in everyday life,
right,
they're just gone.
And you trust them, and they want the best for you, and they're actually going to just let you go.
Yeah, they're there to guide you. I mean, I remember just like when I first started getting into this, there's this thought that came into my head that like we have traded shamans for psychiatrists. This is just something that we've always done, since the beginning of time. The use of substances to attain, higher levels of being, is that the term? Levels of thinking, that's something we've performed these rituals. If anything, we're just getting back to that. And we just have to remember that, yes, it's fun. It can be a lot of fun, but everything in moderation and use responsibly. And you are your biggest therapist, and you're in charge of, yourself, and also giving in. There's just so much good. There's so much good that could come out that it just needs to be talked about more, and so that the stigma can be broken.
There's a thick layer of fear, I feel like, and then people they get blinded by it, and they see it and they think they're going to go insane, and then you do it. Especially with like shrooms, you do it, and then you just sit there and you go, why was I terrified of this? And then you have certain parts of the experience are definitely overwhelming, but they're kind of supposed to be, and you just realize, well, maybe I'm supposed to just write.
That's the rupture, so that you can have the repair. And that's why I feel like if we did talk more about, if we made philosophy more accessible to people, then they could have these tools going into the trip, and they would be like, okay, totally understand why this is going on, totally understand that I am most definitely questioning my existence, and I feel like I'm gonna die, but it's gonna be okay.
Just telling yourself it's okay.
Yeah. And it's like, maybe you should have more experiences like this. Maybe we're a little too comfortable with being on a rock in space.
Yeah.
So you should probably look up and be like, oh
shit,
that's eternity, and it goes on.
I really am a speck in this universe. It's fine. It's okay.
Even is a universe, we just woke up one day and this was our world. And
that's cool. Got it.
And then everyone just goes and walks through their days. And it's like, well, this is all pretty intense and awesome, magical, and all those things. And maybe we should, it's nothing wrong with using a tool to view it differently. For some people, they start off with weed, and that's what does it for them. And then they get used to it, and then they try different things.
Yeah, it's weird to me. I've had my worst trips on weed.
Yeah, it's intense sometimes.
It's just like, we got to a point where it's just like, why'd you have to make it that strong?
Yeah.
And especially when you've like, it's like don't get me wrong, love weed, definitely would call myself a stoner, and I'm proud to say that. And I feel like people should say that to, again, remove the stigma and just to get people, open to it. I love it for the effects on the mind, even though it can be very intense. But I'm a huge advocate of medical marijuana because I have a chronic illness. So it has really helped me with pain management. I'll talk about it for my ladies, I have, or trans women. I have this condition called endometriosis, and it's quite painful. It has something to do with like a reproductive disorder. So medical marijuana has really like saved my life. It has allowed me to like move away from my dependence on painkillers, which is something that I really struggled with before because my pain was so great. And just being able to talk about that and just giving people the option to choose that, because people really don't realize how addicting painkillers can be and how destructive it can be. And just because it's prescribed to you, it doesn't mean that it's not going to harm you. At least look into an alternative. So I love that part of medical marijuana, particularly CBD. And I wish that that was more accessible. And like, say in the Philippines, it's not legal. So I got to really get into it when I was here. Oh yeah. I don't know if y'all heard about the drug war over there. Yeah, definitely.
If you're smoking weed there, can you get arrested for that right off the bat? And then if you're a tourist too, I think you can go.
Possession. There's possession, and then unfortunately for people that don't have pull and they can't get bailed out, a lot of people have lost their lives. Yep. So it's hard, and especially when you know that this thing can do so much good, and people losing their lives over it. It's so there's that, and I'm really grateful that I'm here now and I am able to use that. So there's that part of it, the medical use of it. But I guess the other medical side of it, which is more so like for the mind, I think that weed allows you to really tap into your fears, I guess, through the bad trips. But damn, they made it so strong, like to the point where it's not even enjoyable anymore. And it's like, I get that you definitely go through phases Because like I remember the first time I tried dab and it was like, oh wow, and then you're like, whoa, I don't want that anymore. I don't want edibles anymore. I don't want to feel like I'm never gonna be sober for the rest of my life. It sucks. Like why did they have to make it so strong? I get it because people have tolerance or people are, always looking for the next great thing, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's just distilling it. It's like turning beer into whiskey, kind of.
Yeah, it's like I just wanted a beer, and then you gave me 5 shots. And it's like
instead of making you super loose and silly, it makes you hyper aware of your insecurities, which is
But I get that too because it's necessary, and I also realize that sometimes the trip just magnifies. Of course, mindset setting just magnifies what's already inside. So yeah, maybe I do need to address this. But like right now in the middle of this party, like do I have to be this high?
I'm just trying to like talk to someone and look inside to side.
Like, what? Yeah, but I think that people, I also want to remove that stigma because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you can't handle your weed. Like, oh, I smoke so much. It's like, also realize that it's not about how high you can get. Maybe it's how deep, you can understand yourself or how you can make the most out of your trip.
Yeah, it's that infatuation with taking things to excess, which I think we kind of are locked in a little bit. It's like drinking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like oh, you're pussy or something like that.
Yeah, I hate that, and it's like, and also I feel like it puts people off. Like, imagine it's your first time smoking, and you smoke a pen. The pens are quite strong. If you take a really long draw, you could get really fucked up. I actually think that smoking blunts and joints is a lot more of a calm experience than a pen. Because technically it is dab, it's oil, right? So imagine doing that for the first time. You're going to be high out of your mind. You're never going to want to smoke again.
I've heard people that a lot. Like, they just get way too high and then they're like, yeah, I'm afraid to do it. Like, I don't want them. It's like, no. It's not like that. Like,
Right.
But they're already put off for life, and they probably were just thinking about everything. Probably thinking about childhood trauma in the middle of the party, and they're like, "I don't want to do that."
Yeah, I don't think the substance can make me do this.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's education and how we view it culturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had sorry, this is jumping back quite a bit, but I had an idea when you were talking about your love of lyrics, and I wanted to run it past you to see what you thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be cool with doing like a lyrical breakdown of your songs? Like maybe like if you don't want to do it for Genius, like if we did a project.
Okay, wait. I need to get my lyrics. I remember them.
Maybe not even like right now, but like
we'd call you up some other time.
Oh, okay, like right now. I was like, okay, I'm ready to Google myself. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do a lyrical breakdown.
It'd be great. Yeah, we could make a whole segment off of that, where we could have you walk through your music.
That'd be dope. That'd definitely be dope. I think I would want to do that just to encourage more people to get into lyric writing, because I really do believe that it's an art, but it's another transferable skill. I think the reason why I'm comfortable with lyric writing is because I'm a copywriter. Like, that's my in marketing, that's what I do. It's just the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, how do you pitch something and how do you get the content out?
Yeah, and how do you like say the thing, the thing, and it sounds a little witty and it has like that tone to it, and there's not too many words in it. It's just right. It's not the same thing, and it's like I think people would realize that songwriting is more accessible than you think. You don't have to be a genius to do it. I definitely wasn't a genius when I started. I just did it.
Right. Get rid of that mysticism around it and just let people know it's within their grasp if it's something they want to try, and it can benefit them in their lives. That's extremely important. It can make their lives better. You don't have to write a good song even if you enjoy the process of making one, and then it goes back to the therapy. You just bring in something yourself. Just for
you. And I think that's what's good about things like GarageBand and Logic, or all these things that are already available on our computer, is that, like, do you remember when Bob Ross made painting like into therapy, where it was accessible? You can buy his kits. How come we can't do the same thing for songwriting? how come we can't just teach people how to write songs so that they don't have to, become pop stars? They just need to be able to write a song for their own therapy.
Right.
Totally agree.
Well, Ceej, it's been a fantastic conversation. Do you have anything we should notify at the end of this podcast regarding stuff you got coming up, projects you're working on, things you want people to be posted on, find you, all that good stuff? Just want to make sure that we get people connected with you.
Okay, I'll just run through all my socials, I guess. So my name is Ceej Frankera, if you guys didn't catch that at the beginning. It's at Ceej Frankera on Instagram. You can check out my Facebook page. I post updates there too. Same on Spotify, on Apple Music, on anywhere else. I think I'm out pretty much everywhere. My debut single is Record, and that recently hit 50,000 plays with no label, just self-promo, and we're all really proud of that. And if you guys like it, if you like what I said today, or if you're interested in, my work, just follow me there. I also have my other single after that. I released that in September. That's Fly. I have a music video for that we got to shoot up in San Francisco, so it's very iconic. You guys know the Full House intro? Those houses there? Yeah, the Painted Ladies. We were fortunate enough to shoot it there, like have a little picnic there.
That was the same one. No way. I thought that looked familiar.
Yeah.
I saw it.
And it was crazy. We're like, what? Like, nobody's here and nobody's asking us, no one's kicking us out. We can actually shoot here. So yeah, we did that. So there's that. Do I have new music coming out? I have new music in the works, but I think I'm gonna take my time with it.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's gonna come out. And maybe it won't. I mean, no, it will, but maybe that song that I'm working on won't yet. I don't know. If you are a producer and you're listening to this and you feel like you have something that could work with my sound, or you just want to work with me and see what happens, hit me up or hit up my manager, James Frankera, the Frankera family up in here. It's a family affair. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got.